Hey, and welcome to Dr. G Speaks. I am Dr. Kristen Guillory, and I am so very excited to help you experience a life of freedom, faith, and fun you may not even realize is possible. Listen, I know you feel held back, I know you feel stuck, and I know you are hiding. As a coach and the author of Look, Stop Hiding, How to Find Your Voice and Never Dim Your Light Again, you will get to listen to some amazing stories, receive some homework, that's the professor in me, and get some tools to help you live the life you deserve. It's time to quiet the noise and walk in the fullness of who God created you to be. It's time to stop hiding and start thriving. Together, we'll uncover your potential and ignite your journey to a fulfilling life, a life of freedom. So, y'all, a couple days ago, I had the opportunity to do something I have never done. I went to a prison and spoke to 200 men. The word that I would use to describe the experience was beautiful. Some more words that I'll use. I was in awe. I didn't really have anything, I didn't expect anything. I knew that I would allow the Lord to use me. I knew that. I knew that. And anything that I might have thought, my mind was blown. My mind was blown. So I want to take you to this experience that I had. I learned that I was the first woman, either ever or in a very long time, to be invited to be a guest speaker for this particular program that does so many great things for this prison. So Pastor James Reed, I met him when I was the convocation speaker for Cityscape Schools earlier this year. And at the end, he's a board member. And at the end, he came up to me and told me about his work that he does in the prisons and asked me if I would be interested in speaking. And immediately I said yes. And I was so honored. I was so honored. And I said, how do you know that I do things for men? He said, I heard in your bio, Candid Conversations for Men. What I also know is that that was spirit led. That was spirit led for him to ask me, and we worked it out. And for me to be invited to be one of the first women, if not the first, for this particular program. The program is optional for the men who are there. So they get to pick if they want to go. And it's essentially life skills and a chapel experience and so much more. And they get to pick. So it's about 200 or 220 men. I had to send in my license at least a month before so they could clear my stuff. And I was told, don't bring in your phone, just bring your license and any materials that you will have. And Pastor Reed greeted me with this lovely smile as I walked in. And he had to call a female guard to pat me down to walk in. And I met one of his amazing team members, staff members, and she was awesome, Miss Perez. And we walked on the yard. And what I saw, what really stood out to me more than anything before I even got started, was how much love and respect the men who are incarcerated, along with the staff members, the love and respect that they have for Pastor Reed. I pay attention to things like that. I pay attention to this, and Pastor Reed has been doing this work for 24 years. 24 years. He shared with me that a couple days prior, he spoke at a Workforce Solutions graduation, and one of the men there told him, you have impacted the lives of 35,000 men. And Pastor Reed is saying, oh my gosh, they said 35,000 men. Wow. I said, Pastor Reed, that number is so much higher because they're just giving you that number based on that program. I would venture to say that it's at least 300,000, if not 3 million, the impact of what you're doing. It was an unexpected gift to watch his humility, an unexpected gift to watch how much the men there love him. And as we're walking, the men who are incarcerated have to walk in certain order and line. They have to walk between these lines where those who are not incarcerated can kind of walk wherever we want. And there was a certain order. And this was a medium security facility. And he's running into people that he knows. And so we go into one of the areas where some of the men reside. And they're just coming up, Pastor Reed, good to see you. Hey, Pastor Reed. Hey, ma'am, how you doing? Hey. And I'm just observing. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen. Hello, hello, hello. And I was in prayer. God, you show me what to do. You show me. And for me, and I often tell this to my clients, the speaking engagement or the speaking opportunity does not start when you get on that stage. It starts before you even hit the property. It starts with communication with the person who invited you. It starts on when you're there and how you treat people and talk to people. And for me, it was an honor to be there. Good morning, gentlemen. Hey, miss, I like your shoes. Thank you so much. Hey, miss, good morning, gentlemen. And there was a gentleman I met, and he was holding the door for the other men to come out. And he was someone who was incarcerated. And I said, hey, how you doing? He said, I'm good. And I looked at him and I said, I believe you. He said, because I am good. If you are above ground and you get to wake up, I'm good. I'm good every day. I said, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. That's amazing. Pastor Reed is in telling me about the work that they've done and the programs that they have. And this day was graduation day. So this day, the men who had completed the hours of this particular program, some of them are graduating, and they also give out awards to the men, and their colleagues vote for them. So it's all kind of led by colleagues, integrity and stuff like that. So I'm learning, and now we're walking on the property to go to the chapel. And I'm walking with Miss Perez. Pastor Reed was already in front of us. And the men are saying, hello, good morning, hello, hello, hello. And at one moment, we hear somebody yell, make a hole, make a hole. It was like the parting of the Red Sea. These men split up to allow the two of us to walk through with a quickness, with a good morning, ladies. Good to see you. Miss Perez, nice to meet you. And we go in. One, I didn't know that it was kind of a church service. I didn't know that. Two, I had no idea that I was about to go to church. So I walk in and it's full. All the men are seated. And on stage, there are about 7 men who are incarcerated who are part of the praise and worship team. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting this. So they walk us to the front. We get our seats, and Pastor Reed says, hello, praise and worship starts. Again, I don't know what I was expecting, but I will tell you this. I was not expecting the brilliant musicians and vocalists that were up there. The keyboardist was magnificent. The bass player, magnificent. Everybody was. The vocalist, magnificent. And beyond the talent, the words were being presented and sang, and I believe that they truly meant what they were singing. I have been in places where people are singing praise and worship and they're going through the motions. These men were not. These men were not going through the motions. So praise and worship ends, and they begin to hand out certificates for the men who completed, and each man had the opportunity to share 20 seconds of kind of a speech. And there was gratitude, there was transparency, there was, I tried it my way for 40 years, and now I'm doing it God's way. I used to have an addiction here. Now I'm, clean 3 years. I've been thinking about what to say all day. And if you don't have a vertical relationship, you don't have a horizontal one. I say, you better preach. Okay. And just genuine gratitude. Hey, y'all, thank you so much for these certificates. And it was really cool to see the surprise. Oh, man, who nominated me for this? So then Pastor Reed introduces me, and I'm still praying, God, what do you want? Like, show me what to do. Well, before that, because I play music and just about everything I do, but I couldn't bring my phone in, so we couldn't play anything on a speaker. I wasn't able to put the music on a CD. And the keyboardist, I went to ask him, has he ever heard of merengue? And he was like, no, but if you had something I could hear, I could quickly get it. I said, I can tell you're so good. Like, what's going on? What you doing here, dog? And he said, I got caught with less than an ounce on me, and I've been here for 10 months, and I have 3 more months. And I said, oh, man. He said, no, but I play with bands. I'm an artist and all that stuff. And he said, I can tell you're in music. Aren't you in music? I said, how do you know? He was like, I saw you. Like, I could tell you do music or something. I said, well, no, I love music. I incorporate it in everything. So then I asked him, I said, can you give me like a hip hop beat? And he said, what type of style? And I said, if you want to go Biggie, Tupac, if you want to just give me like a hip hop beat real quick. And he starts playing. And I started doing the theme song that I use from time to time at events, that you will never find another lady quite like. And we're jamming. It's not my time, y'all. Like, something's going on. There's like a break, and we're doing this. And he was like, man, do you have a card or something? I said, yes, I have a couple. Meets me afterwards and I'll give you my card. He was like, man, I'd love to come to some of your events when I'm out. Absolutely. Sir, you are so gifted. I had the chance to talk to some of the other men, walked around. There was one of the men who got a certificate, shared that he was on a good path for a minute and essentially got some bad news that put him on a bad path. And he's been feeling really, really down. And he was so transparent in that, and the room encouraged him. So now Pastor Reed is introducing me, and I have a mic. I get up on stage, and the men are very attentive and a lot of claps and all that stuff. And the gentleman on the keyboard, he starts playing the music too soon, but he starts playing it. And I kind of start dancing, and the whole room is like erupting. And it was so fun. I'm like, y'all, stop playing, stop playing. And it was just, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen. What did I just call you, gentlemen? And I said, I am not here to try to fix you. I am not here to tell you how to be a man. I am here to remind you that you are worthy. I am here to remind you that the mistake that you made does not define you. I am here to bring a little bit of fun in this thing. I know we're in a hard place, but I believe in fun. Who else? And so we're having a good time. And we do two claps, two claps. Good job. What two claps is something that I incorporate in the majority of my speaking engagements and trainings, where you clap twice, and when you're clapping, you say good job. Two claps, good job. And we, riled them up with that. That was a lot of fun. I invited them to stand and share one thing that they're proud of themselves for. And I brought a few on stage, and one gentleman said he was proud that he was back in his children's life. And I said, how did you do that? He said, I just kept calling, and I kept calling. And then my ex-wife agreed, and now I'm back. And I encouraged the men. I said, gentlemen, those of you who are fathers, and if you haven't been in contact with your children, call them. Now, if there's a boundary in place, you need to honor that boundary, but call them. If they don't answer, call them again. It reminded me of working with men about 10 years ago. And there were some men that were so afraid that their children weren't going to answer. And I said, they may not, but keep calling. Keep calling them, because they need you. Once again, if there's a boundary, we need to honor the boundary. Then I had them meet someone else and share a favorite song from when they were about 15 years old. And they're talking about it. Then I say, now perform the song. So you see the room of these 200 men dancing and singing. And I talked to one guy, and he was like, Vanilla Ice. Dun, 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 dun. I talked to another gentleman, and he said, I can't remember. I said, what do you think? He was like, I really can't remember. And I know that perplexed him, because he couldn't remember. And I said, well, was there a type of music you liked? And he paused and said, oh gosh, I don't even remember the song. Don't mean nothing but a good time. It's some kind of rock song, I think from the 90s or 80s. And The room was performing, so I bring up some men on stage to perform their song. And the way the room encouraged, the fun that was happening all over the place, the two claps that was still going all over the place. There's something else that I do at my events, whether in person or even virtual, where I will ask you to lean forward. I'll say, everybody lean in and take it back. Come on, lean in, come on, and take it back. Come on, lean in, get it, get it. And so that was a lot of fun. I took other moments to encourage them with the and ministry. I said, gentlemen, it is okay to be grateful and in pain at the same time. Some of you are getting ready to be released and you're excited and you're nervous. And I heard men say, oh my gosh, yeah. And I said, that's real. Some of you are excited and fearful. That's real. Talk to somebody about that. Work through that. That is real. The gentleman that I told y'all earlier said that he was doing well and then kind of hit a bump that made him regress. I directly spoke to him and I said, some of you have been in good places and then something happened. I said, sir, I'm talking to you. And his whole posture and body language changed. He sat up. I said, you know, I'm talking to you. I said, thank you for your courage. And you can make it. You will survive this. Do not do this on your own. Then I had everyone do the activity that I facilitate called Speaker Listener, where you partner up and you share the life title for your life. And the men are doing it. I'm going around and encouraging them, and some are doing it. And a few are, I know, a little hesitant. But after going around giving a little bit more encouragement, the whole room is chatting with each other. I see one man to the side and I start talking to him. I said, what's your title? And he told me. And I said, come join me. Come up here with me. I said, I'm not going to have to speak. No worries. Just come lean on this podium. Y'all, I have no idea why I invited that man to lean on that podium. I have no idea. So I have them going around and sharing with each other. And that's part one. Part two is now listeners summarize what you heard. After they do that, I'm talking to men. Hey, how did that feel to be heard? It was amazing. I could tell that they really cared. I could tell I don't often feel heard. It was so needed. Thank you. While we're up there, he asked me if he could get the mic. I said, sure. He said, right there, the guy who was on the podium, that man right there is going through some things and he needs some prayer. He needs some support, y'all. And I said, so support him. He said to me, you're the doctor. A guy from the group, from the crowd, got up and came and gave him a hug. I said, that's how you can support. He said, oh, you meant like that? I said, however you think. He said, oh, my bad, my bad. And he's telling me, the gentleman at the podium, he's saying to me, I don't like being in front of people. I like isolating and being by myself. I said, thank you for sharing. I looked at the two gentlemen who came up and encouraged him. I said, hey, who's sitting in that seat between y'all? He said, he is. I said, absolutely, go have a seat. He was like, what? Absolutely. You need community. They see you. I appreciated the courage, the boldness to say, I see you. You need support. And I continued that conversation with the men by saying, fellas, sometimes it's not even about giving advice. Sometimes it's about being an ear for somebody and saying, I see you. Are you open to a hug? If you're not open to a hug, can I fist bump you? Sometimes that's the support that somebody needs, that you see me, that you see me. So then we get to the final part, and now it's gentlemen, give each other encouragement, do your thing, and the smiles, the hugs that are taking place. I'm telling the men, I'm so proud of you. 2 claps. There was a gentleman who was there, and I could tell he really, really enjoyed 2 claps. And I said, you want to be my 2 claps partner? You go on and do it. You get the group to say 2 claps. He was like, good job. I said, no, no, no. You say 2 claps and let them clap and say good job. He was like, oh, 2 claps, 2 claps. He loved it. I said, okay, I'm going to let you be the 2 claps person. Now, don't do it every 5 minutes, but from time to time, go on and do a 2 claps and y'all say good job. And I'm ending it by saying, gentlemen, I'm so honored to be here. You are worthy and I see you. And I paused and looked around that room and I said, I see y'all and you know I do. I see you. I see you. Yes, ma'am, we know you do. At one point, they were so excited. They was talking when I was talking. And I said, gentlemen, what I will not do is talk over you. What I will not do, because one, I know who I am and I know I deserve all the respect. Don't y'all agree with that? They were like, yes. I said, I know I'm a daughter of the King and I know how I should be treated. And so I will not speak over you. I will not raise my voice. I don't do that. And gentlemen, you are sons of the King. And they were, yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, we hear that. And there were a couple men who said, we've never seen a woman do what you just did. We've never seen a woman carry herself like you just did. Because I said, gentlemen, I don't yell. I don't fuss at. I just know who I am. And they were like, yes, ma'am. So we're getting ready to end. My time had to be cut a little short by something that happened earlier. And a gentleman came up and asked me for the mic. I said, sure. He gets the microphone and he looks at me and he said, thank you so much. You don't know what you have done for us today. You don't understand you being here, you bringing fun. Thank you for what you've done. He then looked at Pastor Reed and looked at the other team members and said, thank you for what you do. And he said, I'm getting emotional. This gentleman had, just to give you an aesthetic, he had like cornrows and some tattoos on him, maybe one like a smaller tattoo on his face. And he just said, y'all don't understand what it means for y'all to be here, for you to be here. Miss G, Dr. G, thank you. And I just said, it's my pleasure. The group started saying, sing, you gonna sing? I said, oh, do you sing? Do you sing? He was like, a little bit. I said, what do you sing? Usher? And the group was like, no, no, no. He writes his own music. I said, oh. And I gave him the microphone. Y'all, let me tell you something. What happened next? My gosh. My gosh. First of all, this man's voice is beautiful. Good gracious. And then the song he wrote, it was a praise and worship and gospel song. It was magnificent. The next thing, half of the men get on their feet and are clapping with him as he is ministering. I sit down on the stage. I'm like, I'm sitting. It is magnificent. Then I see men stand up who didn't stand earlier and they're clapping. And he motions like he's ending. And I look at him and I motion for him to keep going. It was an extension of church. It turned into a revival. It was beautiful. It was glorious. And for those who do this type of work in ministry on a regular basis or even semi-regular basis, thank you for what you do. Thank you for dedicating your time and energy and love to supporting individuals who are incarcerated. Pastor Reed does this not at all for any type of credit or accolades. It is part of his calling and ministry. And it's not just, oh, I'm going to show up twice a month. No, 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 no. They dedicated a building, part of a building, to the work that he does. And he went in and redid it. He said, no, we specifically wanted bright colors in here. And this is the program that we have. And this is how we're reworking this program. Like, it is so intentional. And anybody who knows me, they know in being intentional is everything to me. So my time was ending and I just told the men, you are valuable. I want you to look at somebody and say, I see you and you are valuable. And they stood up for me and clapped for me in standing ovation. And I was so honored. And at the end, I can't even tell you how many men came up to me, 70, 80, 90, if not more, came up at the end to express their gratitude and say, I just had to come up and shake your hand. I just needed to thank you. Do you have a card? How can we follow you? Do you have a podcast? You mentioned a podcast. Thank you. One man came up to me and said, today I experienced joy and I hadn't felt joy in a long time. There was a man that I talked to who has a 15-year sentence and he was on year 3 and had the nerve to be extremely positive and optimistic. And we talked for a second. There was one gentleman that came up to me and he said, the Holy Spirit told me to tell you this. You are going to go further than you even think. So get ready. You are. The man that sang said, I'm being led to do this We need to pray. So a group of 10 of us, myself, Miss Perez, and 8 of the men prayed, and he prayed a prayer for me and Miss Perez. Lord, watch over these women. Thank you for their lives. The prayer was for us. Other men are coming about. Someone asked me to autograph his Bible. Someone asked me to write down some information. Miss, what you said today really resonated. It really meant a lot. I just had to come up and thank you. I just had to come up and thank you. And my mom teases me when I go to speaking engagements and she's with me. She will say she wants to take a separate car because she knows I'm going to be there an extra hour. And I'm like, no, Mom. She's like, yes, everybody's going to want to come up to you and talk to you. And I don't ever recognize how long it is because for me, for someone to come up and express gratitude in any way, why would I not stay and dedicate that time? And the thing is, my mom knows that. And anybody in my life, they've never been like, come on, we need to come on. They either say, we're going to sit down. We know this is going to take about an hour. Or, hey, I'll see you at the house. Because for me, it's the steps that the person took to even come up. Because it could be, I really want to go say thank you, but I need to go, or I'm nervous, or I don't know. But to come up and express gratitude, especially at this time of year, these men are going to be incarcerated for Christmas, and they were for Thanksgiving. And Pastor Reed and the others even already hearing about the Christmas plans they're making for these men. I briefly encouraged them around doing the work you need to do. Whatever that means. Nobody can make you do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. Maybe your story looked like this at one time. If y'all know the story of Paul, Saul to Paul, if you know that, but you have to be the one to choose, to trust, to do something different. It's your choice. It has to be your choice. What I didn't expect was to be poured into. I didn't expect that. To be prayed for, to be spoken into, for these men to thank me and say different words, for the staff to say, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I didn't expect to see church. And I'm so grateful that I don't lean on my expectations. In truth, y'all, I really entered the space like, okay, I know I'm probably going to say this. I know I'm going to have us do this, but God would not let me finish the outline for the experience. He would not let me finish. And I just said, God, you're going to have to lead me and guide me. And y'all, true statement. The first probably 4 minutes while I was on that stage, I don't know if I could accurately describe it. I was up there talking to the men, but it was like I was looking at myself talking to them. Like it really was. It was an out of body experience. And there are so many other side conversations I had with the men who shared about family, who shared about regret, who shared about they never want to be there again, who shared about their countdown, who shared about life. And it makes me think about the times I was hesitant or resistant to doing work with men because I'm a woman. And God essentially saying, being a man does not necessarily qualify you to pour into men. I qualify you. So you, yes, you, a woman, a single woman, you're going to go in there and bless this group, command their attention, do something that very few people have ever seen or very few people can do. So for me, a couple of my takeaways is one, I absolutely am returning. I've already talked to Pastor Reed about supporting him and supporting these men. I met some men who had tremendous gratitude, tremendous gratitude. The man who said, I'm good, because if I woke up, I'm good. God is good, y'all. Can you see it? Can y'all see how good God is? And they are talking about, and I believe them, how good God is while they are in prison. And I've often heard people say, for those who are incarcerated, you could be in a physical prison, but you don't have to be in prison in your mind. Because there are people who are not in a physical prison, who are in prison in their mind, who are in prison to shame, who are in prison to scarcity mindset, who are in prison to focusing on what they don't have compared to what they do have, who are in prison due to anger, who are in prison due to jealousy, who are in prison due to a wound from childhood or 5 years ago, whether the wound is poverty or abandonment, or you don't think you're enough, whatever it is, you're in prison. I saw men who were more free than some people who were not incarcerated. And I'm not sure, I know I've been there. When I was stuck and not understanding what God wanted me to do, I had access to everything, but my mind was so focused on fear and doubt and what I thought other people were thinking and scarcity that I was in prison. I was in a mental prison. And so I am grateful for this opportunity. I am grateful for the men's openness. I'm grateful for Pastor Reed and his yes. His yes, that was 24 years ago. His yes, that was 24 years ago. And I want to share a scripture that someone shared with me specifically about this experience and this opportunity. And here's a scripture. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? The king will say, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. That's Matthew 25:34 through 40. One of the reasons I believe, in addition to the anointing and the gifts God has given me, one of the reasons I believe that I get the reaction from working with individuals in different circumstances. I've worked with men who were coming out of homelessness. I've worked with men who are in recovery. I've worked with women who are in recovery from an addiction. I've worked with folks who have done things they're not proud of. I've done things I'm not proud of. We are people. We've made mistakes. And one of the things that God has had in me for a long time has nothing to do with degrees. It has to do with, I truly try to see people. I see people. People say that I have the eyes to see in your soul. I see you past the thing or the circumstance. I see you. I remember I was 22. It was my first graduate internship. I was working on my master's in social work, and I was working at a facility where a lot of men and women who needed to work on their kind of volunteer hours for their parole or probation, they came here. And I remember there was a guy that was there, and fast forward, he was in the juvenile detention center for a couple years, and We met, he was in a gang and he got out of the gang. He got jumped out of the gang for me. I did not know he was doing that. And a lot of other details to his story. He experienced abuse when he was younger. And one day we were talking and he said, "You are the first person to ever see me as human." And actually, he said this in a letter to me. And it was a letter that he actually wrote to the Lord, calling me an angel. Dear God, I need to thank you for this angel by the name of Kristen. She's the first person who ever saw me as human and didn't see me as a gang member or someone who was locked up. And I remember thinking, that made me so sad. That made me so sad. I did not need to be the first person that he felt seen by at 19 years old. I've had other people tell me that. When I was volunteering at an organization, I had staff members say to me, "We have forgotten to see these men as men or these women as women. We have seen them as a case number." And listen, I am not saying that this group, or I don't know what these men did. I don't know. Or didn't do, okay? Because that's a whole thing too. And it's not about, ooh, it's okay. It's not anything, but I can still see you. I can still see your heart. I can still see you. I've had people say that over the years. So one of the things I think is so valuable is if you see someone, I don't see you as a quote unquote addict. I don't see you as someone who did this thing. I see you. And y'all, seeing people is everything. Now, I'm not perfect, y'all. Are there times in my life where I see the person, but I'm also like, I see, judgment, sure. But y'all, I'm grateful that the Lord has given me the ability to see. I'm grateful for the people who have seen things in me. I'm grateful for that man who said, "You're going to go further than you even know." Thank you. Do you let people see you? And do you see others? Or do you see others through their circumstance? Or do you see others through that thing that they did, 10 years ago? And y'all, come on. There's exceptions to some of this. I know everybody can change, but I'm human. So that I even have exceptions like, I can't be in front of that or that and encourage, because in my spirit, that's just not in alignment. Okay. Y'all can read between the lines on that. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to pour in and be poured into. Your affirmation for today: I see people the way God wants me to see them. Your next affirmation: I always serve and move in obedience. Thank you so much for listening to the Dr. G Speaks podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.